That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat. I am here with you for the next 2 hours. We are live on Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, Radio Talk Australia, and Radio X Australia. I encourage everybody to come over and find us on YouTube, where we are the Paranormal Guys with a Z, and join our chat because, well, we have some great people in here today. We have Denise, we have the wonderful, beautiful, and talented Cheyenne, and let's see, Chris is in here. Wendell is in here as well. Welcome, Wendell. Welcome. And let's see, KG is here. It's good to have KG here. He always helps us out with some stories from Washington, D.C., so good deal. We got a pretty good lively chat crew for a crazy news day. So did everybody have a great weekend? I think it was a pretty decent weekend in the South. We got a little bit of rain, but not too much. Well, let's hop over and see if we can figure out what in the world is going on. For those of you that are new to us, we do a news brief show that's similar to a prepper show, with the exception of we don't talk about why you're going to die today. We talk about, well, why you live today and why the adults are in charge. Sometimes, not all the time, just sometimes. All right, we'll start off with FEMA here. And FEMA is, well, they've let me down. They only have a briefing up since Saturday, which doesn't help me out about a bunch. And the only thing they were concerned with over the weekend were the thunderstorms. And of course, we'll check the weather because none of this is technically right. Well, this is where the severe weather is expected. Texas, make sure to buckle those trampolines down because the next 48 hours, you guys are going to rock and roll, maybe even all the way up into Oklahoma. And then further into the week, Tuesday and Wednesday, that's going to extend all the way over almost to you, Wendell. So get those trampolines buckled down. It's going to be a windy, wild weather day in the deep south. So I'll try once again to update this and see if FEMA has woke up. I don't know if they're just busy doing something else or what, but apparently that's the last update was May 3rd. So we know that's not correct because today, well, it's May 5th, 2025. We go next to the President's Daily Schedule. Hello, Soul. Welcome. The President's Daily Schedule. Well, the press got a little bit of a break. They only had to show up for work at 9 o'clock today. At 1 o'clock, which is right now, the president delivers a sports announcement. Wonder what that could be. Well, I might give you a little insight to that. It could be breaking news. I wonder if it'll be what's trending. Then closed press, 3 o'clock, the president signing even more executive orders. Good times. And then at 3:30, the president welcomes home a returned citizen. I'm not sure what that one's about. And then at 6:55, the president is departing the White House en route to the Trump National Golf Club, Washington, D.C. And he's going to attend a MAGA dinner there at 7:30 and be coming back to the White House around 9:30, and they will put a lid on it. Over the weekend, he spent the weekend in Mar-a-Lago, got back in to the White House last night. Let's see, he got in last night around 8:30. So he was at Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. I'm sure that he enjoys his time there. I would if I had the hardest job in the world. Yes, everybody, please hit that thumbs up button. It helps spread us out to the, I don't know, YouTube media, whatever you call it. I don't know. This site sometimes annoys me. This is our current DEF CON level. And, well, sometimes it gets a bit squirrely on me. All right, so we'll go back for a couple days since we were off. Let's see. Let me make this larger here. All right, so this is just them basically the system announcement telling you how their system works. You can go over to defconlevel.com and get updates. So over the weekend, May 4th, joint U.S. Somalia operations against al-Shabaab and ISIS Somalia from March 3rd through May 4th. And then the African Command is going to conduct multiple airstrikes, including those targeting ISIS Somalia in Basano. I don't know. They killed some people in Africa, apparently. So they've got some ongoing operations in Somalia against Al-Shabaab in ISIS. I don't know why we're telling them the days we're going to do it, but apparently it's going to be between March 1st and May 4th. And then on May 4th, the analysis, China Coast Guard helicopter intruded in Japanese airspace, represents a significant escalation in the long-standing territorial dispute between Japan and China. And over the Senkaku, I don't know how to say it, islands known as the Diaoyu Islands. And then on May 4th, sirens sound after missile launched from Lemon was bombing people from Yemen. I hit the wrong button again. Why do I keep doing that? Yemen was bombing Israel on May 4th, and so sirens were launched. Reports of fallen projectiles in central Israel. So, all right. Let's see. We went back. I'm trying to see how far back we went. I think we're caught up there. And then update May 5th, current geopolitical climate. The United States continues to carry out 24/7 strikes on the Houthis in Yemen. In the current political climate, we recognize that our commitment is neutral and factual, therefore reporting often draws criticism. This site often draws some serious criticism. We understand that not everybody agrees, but our primary goal is to remain accurate. And if they say you have something you want to report or tell them, email them, message them. Right there on the center of the screen is their, what do you call it? Their QR code. I'm having a cramp. Let's see. I'll make sure there's nothing else that I missed. And I think we got it. They're still concerned about targeted terrorist attack. I looked through the terrorist warning attack, and everybody is either at substantial or likely. That's something. And this is the whole world. So this is the whole world. Hello. Harley, how are you? I'm having a cramp. I thought Lemon was being bombed. Let's see. Sometimes wonder if Andy is influenced enough to change the DEFCON level with his activities. Well, he's close enough. So, but yeah, I looked and seen that everybody, almost all continents, is substantial, elevated, or more likely to have a terrorist attack. Of course, New York, Washington, D.C., California, any major metropolitan area, or anything that gets a lot of people. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's hop back over here to our news segment. Let me see if I can find it and find out what today is. Well, today, we said, was May 5th. It's National Silence the Shame. It's National Calendar Day to silence the shame. Okay. Cinco de Mayo, if you celebrate that. National Astronauts Day. Melanoma Monday is the first Monday in May. National Hoagie Day. Everybody go get a steak sub today. National Totally Chipotle Day. We'll put some Chipotle on your hoagie. National Cartoonist Day. All right. Well, that's today. Let's see what else we have for today. We talked about National Hoagie Day, Cinco de Mayo. It's Buddha Day if you celebrate Buddhism. It's Children's Day in Hawaii. Kokomo, I believe that says. Kokomo. It's National Concert Day. I haven't been to a live concert. God, I can't remember the last one. National Early May Bank Holiday. Put off your banking chores and spend the day relaxing. Okay. It's National Europe Day. Great Lake Awareness Day. Well, everybody up in the Northeast should be working on that. Maybe they can go out and find Champ in Lake Champlain. Hug a Shed and Take a Selfie Day. Interesting. Well, I will go hug my shed later. And Indian Arrival Day in Ghana. International Midwives Day. Liberation Day for the Netherlands from WW2. Talked about Melanoma Day. It's a good question, Wendell, that I do not know the answer to. I'm sure we can find it. Museum Lovers Day. If you're in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian's are some of the best museums in the world. It's National Nail Day. Well, I usually chew on mine, so I don't guess it matters. Astronaut Day, Cartoonist Day, Devin. If you know a Devin, say hello to Devin. Is anybody in the chat named Devin by any chance? National Meeting Planners Appreciation Day. Well, okay. Open Farm Day. And Silence the Shame. Speak up about mental health. Well, that should be done. That should be shouted from the rooftops, because mental health is definitely underserved to the United States. I can only speak of the United States. Other parts of the world, they may be. Revenge of the Fifth Day. Get your red lightsabers charged and ready to celebrate the Revenge of the Fifth. Sleep Apnea Awareness Day. Well, if you know me, you know I have a BiPAP because of my brain disease. Totally Chipotle Day. World Hand Hygiene Day. Well, you should learn how to wash your hands properly. And if you don't know how to wash your hands properly, as you're washing your hands, scrubbing all your dirty little digits, sing happy birthday twice, and you will have washed them long enough and significantly enough to get off most of the germs. It's World Portuguese Language Day. All right. Today is Adele's birthday. Happy birthday, Adele. Don Benjamin, Jenna Davis, Karl Marx, Nikki DeMartino's birthday. I'm not sure I know who they are, but happy birthday to those fine people. And let's see, in today's history, we'll do a little bit of that real quick. 1260, good Lord. Grandson of Genghis Khan become the ruler of the Mongol Empire. All right. Chris says Darth Maul has the best lightsaber ever. That's the one it's on both ends, isn't it? It's like I don't know what you call it, but yeah, it's on both ends, right? 1893, Panic of 1893 causes a large crash in the New York Stock Exchange. Well, I was listening to a show just before coming on today, and that's what the guy was saying. Oh, there's going to be a crash. We're all going to die. We're going to be broke. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, okay. We'll see at 4:00 how his what do you call it? How he called it. See if it was right. 1941, Ethiopian Empire Haile Selassie returns triumphantly to Addis Ababa. West Germany is granted full sovereignty. 1965, first large-scale U.S. ground units arrive in South Vietnam. 1980, I remember this, siege at the Iranian embassy in London ends when the SAS and police storm the building. 1981, 66 days of hunger strike. 26-year-old provisional IRA member and British MP Bobby Sands died in prison. 9 more hunger strikers died in the next 3 months. Today in film, 2018, Childish Gambino released the music video to the new single, This Is America. I don't remember that one. In 1891, Music Hall, which is now called Carnegie Hall, is opened in New York City. Interesting. I did not know it was that old. Today in sports, 1904, Cy Young pitches the first perfect game in modern baseball as the Boston Americans beat the Philadelphia Athletics. 1969, Milwaukee's Bucks #1 draft pick in UCLA center Law Iski, which is now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was drafted. Okay. That was, wow, 1969. That seems like yesterday. All right. What else see? What else is today? Let's see. We're going to skip ahead. Today, historical events for today. Let's see. Let's just come up a little bit faster in history. 1864, Battle of Wilderness in Virginia, the Fort Wilderness Tavern. In 1864, campaign in North Georgia, Chattanooga to Atlanta. 1865, the first U.S. train robbery occurs. Sitting Bull in 1877, well, he headed to Canada. Well, ironically enough, there's many Americans doing that now. What does this say? Chris says Cheyenne thinks that Glen saw the first Cy Young game. No, I did not. We talked about Carnegie Hall opening. I bet you if you had his if you had his baseball card, you'd have something. African military pilot in 1917, Eugene Bullard gains his pilot license in France and becomes the first African American military pilot in the French Air Service. The Communist Labor Party was banned in 1920 by President Woodrow Wilson. And let's see, John Scopes arrested for teaching evolution in 1925 in Tennessee, where I happen to be located. Cobb 6 for 6. Detroit center fielder Ty Cobb goes 6 for 6 with 4 runs, 5 RBIs, and 16 TBs. I don't remember what TB is. And Tigers 14-8 win over the Browns at Sportsman Park. Quick, Chris, what is a TB? I'm having a cramp. 1947, Mississippi Valley flooding killed 16, caused $850 million in damage. 1947, that was a lot of money. In 1949, KGO TV, Channel 7, San Francisco, begins broadcasting. 1951, Cole Porter's musical Out of This World, an adaptation of Titus Plattus's mythological comedy starring George Gaines, closes in New York City after 157 performances. Total bases. Thank you, Chris. I was having a brain cramp. So he went 6 for 6. He had 4 runs, 5 RBIs, which is a run batted in, and 16 total bases. There we go. And it was one of those, I just couldn't think of it. 1961, on this day in history, Alan Shepard became the first American in space aboard Freedom 7. 1962, the West Side soundtrack goes all the way to number 1 and stays there for 54 weeks, 20 weeks longer than any other album. I wonder if that beat Michael F. Jackson. We talked about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 1969, Pulitzer Prize awarded to Norman Mailer. And the Kentucky Derby, it was the 99th Kentucky Derby in 1973, and Secretat won award. I believe over the weekend, Prosperity won. Is that right, Chris? I think it's who won. 1973, Columbia Records releases There Goes Ryman Simon, the third solo studio album by American singer-songwriter Paul Simon. That goes back a minute. 1975, the A's released pinch runner Herb Washington, who played 104 games without batting, pitching, or fielding. He did steal 30 bases and scored 33 runs. Well, I got to say, that's a pretty good career if you were released after being in 104 games, and that's pretty much all you did. Basically, he was a fast runner. 1973, good Lord, the MLB, the Cincinnati Reds, Pete Rose becomes the 14th player to get 3,000 hits, and he still deserves his spot in the Hall of Fame. 1988, Eugene Marino installed his first African-American Catholic archbishop in Atlanta, Georgia. 1989, Mike Tyson gets his second speeding ticket for drag racing in Albany, New York. I did not know he was into drag racing. All right. 1989, national release of Field of Dreams, a sports fantasy movie based on W.P. Kinzel's novel Shoeless Joe, starring Kevin Costner, James Earl Jones, Ray Liotta, and Burt Lancaster in his final film role. Interesting. And that is going to be a classic movie one day. Today in music history, 1992, American country singer Tammy Wynette was hospitalized with bile duct infection. 1994, Joan Rivers and Aaron Sanders stage comedy Sally Marr and Her Escort, starring Joan Rivers, opens at the Helen Hayes Theater in New York City and ran for 50 performances. 1999, that seems like yesterday, the 34th Academy of Country and Music Awards were to Garth Brooks, Faith Hill, and Tim McGraw, who are all still kicking. 2007, the Kentucky Derby, which was 133rd at that time, Calvin Borel avoided the second favorite street since wins on his home track in front of special guest Queen Elizabeth. Home Before Dark in 2008, American or Columbian Records releases Home Before Dark by Neil Diamond. I do not remember that one. 2015, Traveler debuts his album by Chris Stapleton, and it gets a Grammy Award in 2016. Knighthood, 2017, Anna Wintour, the editor of U.S. Vogue, is made a dame by Queen Elizabeth at Buckingham Palace. So you're a dame if you're knighted. Is that correct? Let's see. 2018, Childish Gambino, David Glover, releases the music video to the new single, This Is America. 2018, electronic cigarette explodes, killing a man in St. Petersburg. The first person to die of a death from vaping product. In 2020, global confirmed cases of COVID-19 reached 3.65 million. U.S. case passes 70, while the UK becomes the first affected in Europe with 29,427 deaths. 2021, President Joe Biden announces the U.S. will temporarily lifting patients' protection on COVID-19 vaccines with the WHO. Wonder if he remembers that. 2020, Karine Jean-Pierre appointed White House press secretary to Joe Biden, the first Black and out LGBTQ person in that role. All right. Famous birthdays. We're just going to skip ahead to some people we know. Because I'm not sure. I don't know many of these people in the 1800s. Let's see. Let's at least get to the 1900s. I might know one or two. Blind Willie. He's a ragtime singer and guitarist, born in Thomas, Georgia, He died in 1951, but he was born today in 1901. James Byrd, American culinary expert in 1903. Benny Baker in 1907. I'm still looking because I don't know any of these people. I'm sorry. I probably should, but I don't. Wow, we're all the way up to 1930, and I still don't know many people here or any. Johnny Ace Cannon, 1934, a pop country, rock and country music saxophonist. Never heard of him. Let's see here. Terry Baker, American College Football Hall of Fame, Heisman Trophy winner from Oregon State, was born in 1941. I'm still going, guys. Looking for somebody I know. Maybe if you see somebody you know, point it out. Brad Baxter, American NFL fullback for the Jets, was born in Dothan, Alabama. Let's hope he didn't go to Alabama. Let's see here. Still struggling. I'm still struggling. Sage Stallone was 1976. Actor Rocky V, and the eldest of Sylvester. Okay. 1977. Tiffany Roberts, the American soccer defenders. All right. And I'm still struggling. Man, I don't know anybody. 1984, Eve Torres, American actors and professional wrestler, three-time WWE Diva Champion, was born in Boston. And Brooke Hogan in 1988, American pop singer, undiscovered, and television personality. Brooke Knows Best was born in Tampa, Florida. Let's see, famous weddings. Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton. I believe they didn't celebrate not just exchanging rings, but they exchanged pendants with drops of blood from their in a little necklace. I don't know. They were weird people. What can I say? Let's see. Famous deaths that occurred today. Joseph W. Kennedy, an American chemist, and Reverend Gary Davis in 1972. He was American blues and folk guitarist. And Sam Lannon, that name sounds familiar, and jazz arranger and band leader. And I'm still going here. I don't know many of these people. Maybe I just don't know people. It's a good thing. Ted Atkinson in 2005. He was an American jockey. Theodore Hallman, mailman, he was an inventor and engineer. Jerry Wallace, American country and pop singer. Let's see, Sweet Joe Russell, an American acapella singer. All right, well, I'm striking out here. Howard Sweet Pea Atkinson, an R&B singer. And George Jung. Who's George Jung? He was an American drug trafficker whose story was portrayed in the biopic Blow. He died of kidney failure at 78. All right, well, we've stumbled our way through that one. Let's see. We'll try it again. Today in history, May 5th, 1818, Karl Marx is born. He is a groundbreaking economist and philosopher. Chris says, I am almost famous enough to be on today's list. Well, that's good. Wendell says, today is National Small Business Day in Alabama. Okay. And Chris says, I didn't recognize Biden not falling on plain steps. Well, yeah. Did he have another? Well, never mind. Napoleon dies in this day in 1821, one of the most famous military leaders and commanders in world history. 1862, Mexico wins the Battle of Pueblo. Well, we took it anyhow. Nellie Bly is born in 1864. Alan Shepard becomes the first American in space. And Bobby Sands dies after refusing to eat for more than 2 months. Seems to me he got hungry. All right. That seems to be enough of that. Let's get to some news here. We've wasted enough time being silly. So, all right. We'll go over some headlines real quick here. The Lady Gaga, this comes to us from Billboard magazine. Lady Gaga concert in Rio, well, it was allegedly targeted in a bomb plot. Brazilian police have arrested 2 people. Prior to and during the show, there were no safety concerns, nor any communication from the police or authorities to Lady Gaga regarding any potential risk, according to the singer. Police said on Sunday, May 4th, that 2 people have been arrested in connection with an alleged plot to detonate explosives at a free Lady Gaga concert in the Rio de Janeiro. The Rio event on Saturday, May 3rd, was the biggest show of the pop star's career and attracted more than 2 million fans to the Copacabana beach and had crowds screaming and dancing. Even as Brazilian authorities said they arrested suspects in the hours before Gaga's show, the event went ahead without disruption, which led to the question of the seriousness of the threat. Serious security concerns typically lead organizers to cancel such massive events, as we recall with Taylor Swift in Vienna. Police said nothing about the alleged plot at the time in an effort to avoid panic and distortion of information. On Sunday, a spokesperson for Gaga said the pop star and her team learned about the alleged threat via media reports this morning. Prior to and during the show, there were no safety concerns or any communications from police or authorities to Gaga regarding any potential risk. Her team worked closely with law enforcement throughout the planning and execution of the concert, and all parties were confident in the safety measures in place. Security obviously was tight at the Saturday concert, with 5,200 military and police officers deployed to the beach, where fans were reveling in the pop singer's classics like Born This Way, which became something of an LGBTQ anthem after its 2011 release. Rio de Janeiro State Police and Brazil Justice Ministry presented the bare outlines of a plot they said involved a group that promoted hate speech against the LGBTQ plus community, among others, and had planned to detonate homemade explosives at the event. The plan was treated as a collective challenge with the aim of gaining notoriety on social media, the police said. The group, it added, disseminated violent content to teenagers online as a form of belonging. Authorities arrested 2 people in connection with the alleged plot. A man described as the group's leader in the southern state of Rio Grande on illegal weapons possessions, and a teenager in Rio on child pornography. Police did not elaborate on their exact roles in the plot or how the group came to target Gaga's concert. Those involved were recruited, including teenagers, to carry out integrated attacks using improvised explosives and Molotov cocktails, according to police. Justice Ministry said that it determined the group posed a risk to public order. Said the group falsely presented themselves online as, quote, little monsters, which is Gaga's nickname for her fans, in order to reach teenagers and lure them into networks and violence and self-destructive content. The ministry said there was no impact on those attending the open-air concert. During a series of raids on homes of the 15 suspects across several Brazilian states, authorities confiscated phones, electronic devices. They believed homemade bombs were intended for use in the planned attack, and there was no mention of the raids turning up any weapons or explosive materials. Gaga has expressed sincere gratitude for the enormous crowd in an Instagram post, said nothing about the alleged plot. Nothing could prepare me for the feeling I had during last night's show, the absolute pride and joy I felt singing for the people of Brazil, she wrote. The sight of the crowd during my opening song took my breath away. Your heart shines so bright, your culture so vibrant and special. I hope you know how grateful I am to have shared the historical moment with you. Her free beach concert stood out at a time surging ticket prices for live music around the world as concert goers pay budget-busting costs to see their favorite artists. Rio's done this before. Last May, superstar Madonna performed the finale to her latest world tour for some 1.6 million fans on the sprawling sands of Copacabana Beach. And Madonna still performing? Good Lord. I saw that she was outed by the media over the weekend where her 29-year-old boyfriend apparently had a birthday party and she showed up in a shimmy just with nothing but a bra and underwear on. So if you want to go see that, check that out. And apparently they wanted to get those people to do all these things in coordination with a unified attack with Molotov cocktails and other improvised explosives. All right, so if you're in the U.S., a huge U.S. airport is, having a meltdown. There are three issues that are causing problems and cancellation at Newark Liberty Airport, which is in New Jersey. A series of crises has led to chaos at Newark's Littrell International Airport with flight cancellation, delays, and staff shortages causing major disruptions for a week. And it appears it's going to continue. Officials have identified three major reasons for the problem at Newark Airport: an air traffic walk-off, an air traffic controller walk-off, they had enough, technology issues caused by old equipment, and the closing of a runway that needed to be fixed. They all hit United Airlines, which has a hub in Newark, particularly hard because they had to cancel 35 round-trip flights per day starting over the weekend, saying in a statement, "We feel like there is no other choice in order to protect our customers." Also caused the FAA to issue a ground delay program at Newark Sunday, pushing back flights on an average of close to 4 hours. Can you imagine being in a plane for 4 hours? On Monday, scores of flights were still delayed and many canceled. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy called the delays and cancellations completely and utterly unacceptable. The air traffic controller shortage is far from a new issue, but escalated last week when workers at Newark just walked off, making it harder for the airport to operate at a normal capacity. United CEO Scott Kirby said that 20% of controllers at Newark joined the protest. Keep in mind, this particular air traffic control facility has been chronically understaffed for years. Without these controllers, it's now clear the FAA tells us that Newark Airport cannot handle the number of planes that are scheduled to operate there in the weeks and months ahead. I could have told them that a long time ago. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association, the union representing air traffic controllers, did not immediately return requests for comments, but has cited in the past that they need thousands of more controllers to combat the staffing shortage. It's just a part of the problem plaguing Newark because the disruption at the technology that the FAA air traffic controllers rely on to manage the airplane coming in and out of New York has failed. In the past days, the results is dozens of diverted flights, hundreds of delayed and canceled flights, and worst of all, thousands of customers with disrupted travel plans. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy wrote on X that the technology we are using is old. That is what is causing the outages and delays we're seeing at Newark. If we don't act, we will start to see these issues across national airspace. He added, saying he wants to build a brand new air traffic control system to combat this problem, this very issue. The National Aerospace System is a long overdue for technology and infrastructure upgrades, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association has said. Other aviation professionals and other participating United States aviating systems deserve the world's best air traffic control. That's true. Runway construction at Newark. Well, it's like traveling on 95. There's potholes. Mid staffing issues and failing technology, a pre-planned renovation at the airport is making matters worse. Starting April 15th, the airport closed runway 4 left, 22 right as part of a $121 million rehabilitation project, making operations even more difficult. Newark's airport website says expect constructions to be done in mid-June and notes that when operating 4 left, 22 right is the airport's busiest runway for departing flights. They should take some notes on how they did it in Atlanta. They did it all overnight when traffic was the lowest, air traffic was the lowest, and resulted in fewer delays. All right, so let's just get it out of the way. This article comes to us from Zero Hedge by author Tyler Durden. Leftists declare it frightening that children will be taught to, quote, love America. You heard me correctly. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, not the sports guy, gave a press conference Thursday in which he outlined how cancerous communist woke culture will be kept out of taxpayer-funded schools, and instead children will be taught to love America. Well, guess how they responded? It wasn't well. The administration under President Trump is at the forefront of protecting women and protecting girls, adding, nowhere is that clear than when we're talking about the fighting against radical gender ideology. Continued, the administration is fighting to get critical race theory out of the school districts. Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civics, values for schools that the federal taxpayer funds, according to Miller. He continues, so as we close the Department of Education and provide funding to the states, we're going to make sure that these funds are not being promoted to communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous communist woke culture that is destroying this country. Where were we led to believe men and men are women are men, and that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feeling of liberal ideologues, whatever. Sports journalist turned leftist activist Jamel Hill responded by declaring that this should frighten everyone. Okay. Other respondents asked why it should frighten anyone that American children will be taught be proud of their country. Well, I suppose the kids, you can go check this out. There's quite a few people on here asking, why do you want our citizens to hate our country? And how dare people get taught to love their country? This is today's America's left. Our children being taught to love their country is scary to them. Unbelievable. Enzo Baker, F that, F you. We're going to endorse North Korean tactics and fascist propaganda. We teach the truth, and we do not threaten schools who curriculum we disagree with. So this is a interesting conversation back and forth. I don't have time to read all of it, but you can go over and read it for yourself. Matter of fact, I'm just going to stop scrolling because it goes on forever. You can read this at Zero Hedge. Leftists declare it frightening that children will be taught to love American by Tyler Durden. And there's plenty of references to X, showing both the video where Stephen Miller says those things, and then, well, then there's the response on the other side. Yeah, well, sometimes it's hard for me. It's difficult to be so. Chris says, Chris says 4 left, 22 right was a kick-ass runway. Rest in peace. Oh, mercy. If you want completely sane and unbiased opinion, always go to Jamel Hill. Yeah, shocking. All right. I talked about this earlier in Ross's show. As Fetterman defends Israel's no, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me get this headline straight. As Fetterman defends Israel, Democrats suddenly question his mental health. Okay, where were they for 4 years? I remain steadfast with Israel, provide whatever is necessary to carry this out, according to Senator Fetterman, a Democratic congressman, or senator, excuse me, from Pennsylvania. A Pennsylvania Democrat, Senator John Fetterman, has established himself as a staunch supporter of the state of Israel. Democrats once championed him and dismissed the effects of a stroke he sustained, are now questioning his mental health. Since October 7th, the Hamas massacre of more than 1,200 people in Israel, Fetterman has vigorously defended Israel's right to defend itself. After Fetterman endured a stroke in May of 2022, his GOP opponents in the senatorial election, Dr. Oz, joined other Republicans to suggest that he was unable to serve as senator. But Democrats defended. Listen, Fetterman doesn't need to debate him right now, said Senator Jean Shaheen from New Hampshire. Politico reported, because he's ahead, it's still early. I think ultimately he will debate. And why should we help Dr. Oz's campaign? Why does he need it? Why does he need it now? Michigan Democrat Senator Gary Peters declared that Fetterman was getting better every day. I'm completely comfortable with his recovery. Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey stated that he had visited 36 Pennsylvania counties and didn't hear a word about the question of his recovery from a stroke being impediment to being either a good candidate or a good senator. There's no great mystery about whether or how well Fetterman speaks. You can watch him do so regularly on television. New York Magazine wrote in October of 2022, every week he makes fewer mistakes, stumbles a bit less, and gets clear and more relaxed. Well, this week, the New York Magazine wrote, John Fetterman insists he is in good health, but staffers past and present say they no longer recognize the man they once knew. Former and current staffers paint a picture of an erratic senator who has become almost impossible to work for and whose mental health situation is more serious and complicated than previously reported. No one is saying every controversial position, let me rephrase that. No one is saying every controversial position, for example, his respectful relationship with Trump, stems from his mental health, but it's become harder for them to tell which ones do. Much of the New York Magazine article focuses on Fetterman's tough pro-Israel stance. It wasn't until October 7th that it became clear Fetterman was the most outspoken Israel hawk in his party, offering constant and unconditional support for the military action in Gaza. Early on in the conflict, 16 of his former campaign staffers wrote a letter anonymously saying they found his full-throated support for Israel to be a gutting betrayal. The article implied that Fetterman's support for Israel affected his mind, writing the endless fights over Israel, which saw Fetterman draw further into himself, conceded with setbacks in his recovery regime. But Fetterman is not backing down. On Sunday, responding to a headline in Reuters, Iran says it will strike back if the U.S. or Israel attack. Fetterman fired back on X. We cannot negotiate with Iran. It's time to destroy their nuclear nuclear program and neutralize the remaining capabilities of its proxies. I remain steadfast with Israel, provide whatever is necessary to carry this out. You can see his post on X. So there you go. Suddenly, he has a mental illness. Suddenly, he has a mental illness. But where were they for 4 years? Oh, speaking of which, Biden. This comes to us also from our friends at Zero Hedge. Author Tyler Durden. The headline, Biden used autopen. Okay, hold on. Biden autopen use increased as cognitive declined and deepened, according to analysis. Chris says, the idea that they're pulling the same shit again after doing it with Biden for 4 to 8 years shows exactly how stupid they believe we are. Voila! The Oversight Project has released a disturbing new finding showing an apparent correlation between the increased use of the autopen signatures and Biden's worsening mental decline. The group previously found that 2 different autopens were used, pointing out that Neera Tandem was the White House staff secretary when Biden autopen pardons from his golf course in the U.S. Virgin Islands. An organization released further analysis finding that Biden's pardons were family members, Anthony Fauci, General Milley, and committee members, J6 committee members, and Gerald Lungen were all auto-penned. Now, further analysis of the executive order signature shows an increased use of the auto-pen as Biden's mental and physical decline accelerated, according to the group. The findings show that Biden used a wet signature on every single executive order during his first 18 months in office. However, this radically changed in the spring of 2022, when around half of the orders were auto-penned. By the summer, 100% of the orders were being signed by auto-pen. In 2023, 2/3 of the orders were auto-penned, and in 2024, that figure rose to 3/4 before again hitting 100% in the last days of his presidency, 2025. The Oversight Project notes, our investigation highlights several executive orders that are particularly concerning due to their political weight. These orders, all signed with autopen, address sensitive issues such as national security, public health, and military justice. And they list the executive orders: 14097, 14098, 14114, 14118, 14122, and 14130. And these are for anything from combating international drug trafficking to sanctions on Sudan, countering Russian aggression, terminating the Zimbabwe embassy, public health preparedness, and amending the manual for court-martial. And Trump pinpoints Biden operative who most of all should be jailed. Trump declared that the pardons issued by Joe Biden in the final days of his, quote, fake presidency, his words, should be void because he didn't sign any of them. That's going to be taken up by court, I'm sure. So you can go check out this article and see what you think, because they show auto pen and wet pen is what they're calling it, examples according to their reporting. So check that one out. All right, so we'll pick on the other guys so that we're fair here. There's a couple of them. People just do not realize when he's trolling them. Catholic leaders criticize Trump for posting an apparent AI photo of himself as the Pope. Some Catholic leaders, and at least half the U.S. Catholic group, are criticizing. There's a key word there. No, hold on. Some Catholic leaders, and at least one USA Catholic group, are criticizing presidential Trump after he posts on social media what appears to be an AI-generated image of himself dressed as Pope. Trump posted the image on his Truth Social account Friday night, and shortly after it was reposted by the White House on his official X account. He traveled to the Vatican late last month to attend the funeral of Pope Francis, who had died several days earlier at age 88. And here we can see the photo in question and laugh at it because that's what it's supposed to be. It's funny. It's supposed to be a joke. He is trolling them, but they just don't understand how badly they're being trolled, and they get so upset about this. I don't understand why. Just take a joke for a joke. It's what it is. It's a joke. So there you go. The image shows Trump in traditional Pope white cassock. Let me make this larger. Wearing a gold cross around his neck, as well as the iconic papal hat, or mitre, I guess. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the Archbishop of New York, who is friendly with Trump, told journalists at Rome Sunday morning that he hoped Trump didn't have anything to do with the image. When asked if it offended him, Dolan said it wasn't good. The New York State Catholic Conference said in a post on X, "There is nothing clever or funny about this image. Mr. President, we just buried our beloved Pope Francis, and the cardinals are about to enter the solemn conclave to elect a new successor of St. Peter. Do not mock us." Bishop Thomas John Paprocki of the Diocese of Springfield, Illinois, said in a Facebook post that by publishing the image, Trump mocks God, the Catholic Church, and the papacy. He also added the image was deeply offensive, especially as Catholics continue to mourn Pope Francis and prepare for the papal conclave. President Trump owes an apology to Catholics and all people of goodwill, he said. The White House did not immediately respond to an NPR's request for comment Sunday morning, but the AP reported White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt has responded to criticism, saying President Trump flew to Italy to pay his respects for Pope Francis and attend a funeral, and he has been a staunch champion for Catholics and religious liberty. Vice President J.D. Vance, who converted to Catholicism in 2019, said on social media Saturday that the AI, as a general rule, I'm fine with people telling jokes and not fine with people starting stupid wars that kill thousands of my countrymen. Last week, when asked by reporters who he'd like to see elected new pope, Trump said, "I'd like to be pope. That would be my number one choice," before adding, "No, I don't know. I have no preference. I must say we have a cardinal that happens to be out of a place called New York who's very good," an apparent reference to Dolan. So there you go. Denise says, honestly, it was a poor joke and I love Trump. Yeah, but here's the thing. They all do it. Every one of them does it. And it's like late night comedy. So let's see. It was the idea of Republicans, the same comment. It was, I won't say it was the best joke, but it's like late night comedy. They all do it. But here again, we have another picture of Trump. I don't think Trump actually uses AI. I think there's probably some kids in there that, like, maybe his grandkids, like fooling with AI. I don't know. The White House says President Trump represents new hope, but Star Wars fan quickly pointed out that the White House social media post celebrating Star Wars Day feels a little bit more Sith style. Now, you Star Wars people will have to explain this to me because I'm not exactly sure what that means. The big picture, the meme-heavy, provocative communication from the White House pages, coupled with a new Drudge Report-style site for a pro-Trump stories with the president's own social media stunts, have displayed a sharp shift in the official communication of the U.S. government. Driving the news, the White House shared what appears to be an AI-generated, I would think it's AI-generated, so with a heavily muscled and veiny arms flanked, this is talking about Trump, and flanked by two bald eagles wielding a lightsaber to celebrate Star Wars Day, which is celebrated on May the 4th. Happy May 4th to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring Sith lords, murderous drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy. You're not rebellion, you're the empire, the Post read. Well, one issue, Trump's lightsaber in the image is red. A long time ago in a galaxy far away, lightsaber's color suggested who could be trusted and who had fallen to the dark side. In filmmaker George Lucas's words, good guys are green and blue, bad guys are red. Darth Vader and Darth Maul and Kylo Ren all used red sabers. Anakin, pre-Dark Side, and Luke Skywalker carried blue and green ones, respectively. Jedi Master Mace Windu did carry the coveted purple weapon, but among the most common colors, blue, green, and red, even casual fans recognize the trend. So this is a friction point. The White House posts left users battling for the high ground in the comments. Some argue that the Republican color is red, therefore the red lightsaber. Others insisted the image in the photo, the lightsaber, is orange. There are plenty of other colors a Jedi saber could be, other than the Democrats' favored blue, like green, purple, even yellow. Whether the decision was intentional or if AI chose, the saber's color remains unknown. Yes, but the DoD Rapid Response account, however, depicted Trump gripping a green lightsaber while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth carried a blue one. Zoom out. This was the second time in 3 days the White House shared an AI-generated image that stoked controversy. And then they talk about he shared how he'd like to be the next pope. The bottom joke, a seemingly silly debate underscores a broader conversation, at times jarring departure from traditional White House communications and sharing of AI-generated images. So, no apologies needed, Denise. I respect your opinion. I do. I respect your opinion very much so. So no apologies needed. So here is the picture of Donald Trump holding a lightsaber. I don't know. My screen's got a direct light on it, but it does look red to me. So for what it's worth, I don't know that the colors matter, but anybody can look at this picture and know that is not Donald Trump. Can you imagine his golf swing if he had those arms? Good Lord. I wouldn't want to play against him. So if AI did it with all the negative press Trump gets, it would make sense that AI would select a red saber for him. Okay, that's a good opinion. That's all right. I can go with that. So we'll stay with, good Lord, let me stop hitting the wrong button. We'll stay with a little bit more news here for a minute because this is interesting and probably got something to do with the press conference later today. All right, so we're not doing too bad. Stephen A. Smith responds to Donald Trump's endorsement. So if you don't know who Stephen A. Smith is, he's a longtime NBA commentator and ESPN host. He responded Saturday to what he called a recent endorsement from President Donald Trump, who backed the idea of Smith running for president earlier this week in a new episode of his show. He also told CNN's Jake Tapper that he was aghast by the president's support for him. Well, why it matters, Smith has no formal political background. He appeared at News Nation Town Hall hosted by Chris Como alongside commentator Bill O'Reilly earlier this week. During the event, O'Reilly phoned Trump and asked if he had any advice for a potential Smith presidential run. And he said, "I'd love to see him run," Trump said. While the 2028 election is still far away, given the Republicans' widespread electoral victory in November, in which they took the White House, flipped the Senate, and held onto House majority, the Democrat Party is working on how to rebuild and rebrand. Well, what to know? On Wednesday night, O'Reilly humorously asked the president, it was once again a joke, if Stephen A. Smith may run for president, do you have any advice for him if he launches the run? Trump responded by saying, "No, Stephen A., he's a good guy, smart guy," he continued. "I love watching him. He's got great entertainment skills, which is very important. People watch him," he added, that this trait would be crucial for the race. A lot of these Democrats I watch, they say have no chance. The president's touted his track record, saying, "I've been pretty good at picking people and picking candidates, and I will tell you, I'd love to see him run." In an episode of the Stephen A. Smith Show posted on May 3rd, Smith responded to what he calls Trump's endorsement, saying, "Regardless how some of you feel about him, he is still the president of the United States, and if the president of the United States says something like that, it counts for something," he continued. "I kept the door open for a potential run because elected officials and my own pastor said, 'You don't know what God has planned for you.'" Smith noted, however, "I have never been a politician. I have never been interested in being a politician." On Sunday morning, Smith joined CNN's Jake Tapper in the State of the Union address to discuss his reaction to President's support of potential run. "I was aghast, to be quite honest with you," Smith told him. "I wasn't looking for any kind of endorsement from anybody, especially him, but he is the president of the United States. There is a bit of flattery that comes with getting such words from the man who holds the highest office in the land, and I can appreciate that, he said, adding that evidently I have no chance. He later told Tapper that he doesn't believe he is the most qualified potential candidate, but I believe that if I did take this very, very seriously and I moved forward and decided that I wanted to be a politician, do I believe I could win? You're damn right. Prominent Democrats speculate to weighing on a run for include Trump. Let me try this again. Include former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, California Governor Gavin Newsom, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, Wes Moore, Michigan Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Oh, well, yeah, we're going to just kind of wait and play that out. But Stephen A does do another show where he refuses to associate with the extreme left of the Democrat Party. ESPN Stephen A. Smith host, who is considering a run, according to this article, in 2028. And this article comes to us from the Daily Wire, that said on Sunday that he believes the Democratic Party needs to be, quote, purged of its far left tendencies before he would associate with it as a candidate. That's according to Stephen A. Smith. CNN's Jack Tapper asked Smith on Sunday's episode of State of the Union whether he would run for the White House as a Democrat. You know what? I'm an independent. I'm a registered independent. I would lean. Who leans left? I'm fiscally conservative when it comes to my money. I'm socially liberal. I'm liberal when it comes to social issues pretty much across the board. And I believe in living and let living, Smith said. So I'm a moderate, he went on. And I would say if I had to run, it would be as a Democrat, but I'm not happy with the Democrat Party, because the Democrat Party, as presently constructed, it would pretty much need to be purged in order for me to assume that I would want to be associated with them and I would garner support, because I don't like the way they have gone about doing things for a very, very long period of time. He added, and I think that I don't view Donald Trump as winning the election. I view the Democrats as losing the election, as absolutely positively blowing it with some of their actions. And that's why I think that, again, if somebody was to associate me with that party as presently constructed, where it leans so extremely left, or at least has spent the vast majority of time doing that, that is not something that I would vibe with at all. I would definitely be looking at a game changer in that regard. When pressed by Tapper, Smith said that he would not name anyone he thinks should be purged, but the media personality did take aim at the extreme left of the party. We know how they go about operating. We know what we lean towards when it comes to open borders. We know the spending was excessive, even though it's excessive on the Republican side as well. And I think $37 trillion budget. When Republicans try to act like it's just the Democrats, that's not true. But Democrats certainly shouldn't be absolved from blame in that regard. Certainly with identity politics, woke culture, and cancel culture, I thought that was something that ravaged our nation psychologically, because you had people literally scared they were going to lose their jobs if they pronounced the wrong pronoun. For crying out loud, Smith said, it got that bad. Smith said he believes the focus on the individual rather than the actual policies is one reason why Trump won the second term. I'm talking about what they preached and what they talked to the American people about, more so than what they were doing. The kind of messages that they were disseminating was incredibly uncomfortable to listen to or hear, and I thought that was emblematic of what Americans are thinking about. They're trying to pay their mortgages, rent, buy food, groceries, pay gases, and deal with prices, the cost of living, and they want safety in the streets. That's primarily what American citizens are all about, trying to live in peace and harmony, added, and that's not something I think either side has promoted along the way, and that's not why I think the state of the nation is what is at this particular moment in time. That comes from Stephen A. Smith, and I got to say, I didn't like him for a long, long time, but he's kind of grown on me over the years. And Chris says, if AI did it, oh, let's see, we read that about the Sith. Apparently, the qualifications for being an incredible horse's ass has now become required for all possible and probable presidential candidates. That's true. All right. Now, I think this is what the sports announcement is for today. President Donald Trump will announce that Washington, D.C. will host the 2027 NFL draft on the National Mall. Two sources have told Axios that the president will reportedly announce the plan at the White House alongside NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and the owner of the Washington Commanders. As Breitbart reported last week, the Commanders in the District of Columbia have reached an agreement for a football team to return home to RFK Stadium, which served home to the Washington Redskins from 1961 to 1996. The team had been hoping to strike a deal with DC to return and restore the stadium to its former glory. Members of the DC Council expressed skepticism that public tax dollars would go to restoring the stadium. Still, Mayor Muriel Bowser said the stadium could host major economic boosters like the Super Bowl, the Final Four, or concerts. President Trump celebrated the deal. The new stadium deal is a huge win for Washington, D.C., the president said. So that is probably about what the 1 o'clock announcement will be. And I don't know how far the stadium will be along by then. It would be nice to have RFK Stadium built, but we shall wait and see. Let's see. How are we doing on time here? Yeah, we're running a little close. So let's just hop out of this for a while. Yeah, we won't cover that one. Michelle Obama complains it was expensive to live in the White House. Yeah, from a billionaire, I don't want to hear you whine. You've got 17 houses. There's a new DMZ along the southern border. That's not really a shock. There's going to be a 250th anniversary parade, and it also coincides with the president's birthday. It's going to go from Arlington, Virginia, all the way to the National Mall. All right, so that's going to be a special security event that we'll be watching. And apparently, our scientists have discovered that our galaxy has a fractured bone. Who knew that the galaxy had bones? Well, apparently a rapidly stellar remnant may be the cause of the fractured bone in the Milky Way. Okay. They've revealed the possible culprit as a pulsar, which is a spinning neutron star. Neutron stars are the densest stars. A single teaspoon of neutron star would weigh more than Mount Everest. They formed from the collapse of the explosion of massive stars, and these explosions often fire the star off into space at high speeds. One explosive kick could be the explanation behind the fractured bone. And the Milky Way contains enormous structures that scientists say resemble bones. Who knew that? These long formations can be seen in radio waves and are threaded by magnetic fields running parallel to them. They give off radio waves when energized particles spin along the magnetic fields. So it's also commonly known to astronomers as the snake. And of course, this is 230 light years long, and it's one of the brightest, quote, bones in the Milky Way. So there you go. We have bones in our Milky Way. Did anybody know that? I didn't know that. Who knew? All right, so we'll hit this real quick. The National Weather Service daily briefing. Texas, Central Texas, Texas Panhandle, Northwest Texas. You're going to have some extremely violent weather today in the late afternoon. But what's worse is this could go from overnight into tomorrow morning. So please be not only weather aware, have a weather radio and have a flashlight and some means of communication with you charged at all times. And from also, we can expect that much of the Midwest and the Southwest will see rain today. I still can't believe we're talking about higher elevations with some mixed precipitation. And then later tonight over in the Ohio Valley, when I say tonight, I should say afternoon and tonight, all the way extending along that 95 corridor in D.C. down into the Carolinas, could see some significant weathers. I think the chance of a tornado over there is less likely, but always be weather aware. And then down on the Florida, on the East Coast, you need to be worried about some severe weather and, due to your location, a possible tornado. And of course, Texas, your panhandle, that region there, you're always under the gun for a serious tornado. All right, so tomorrow it's going to get a little better, but it's going to get a little worse. Central Texas, you're still going to get some severe thunderstorms, but the chance of extreme weather with tornadic activity will move a little bit to the northeast. But unfortunately, that's going to put Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Oklahoma directly under the gun from the early morning hours until the late afternoon hours, because this storm is getting energy from the Gulf of America by what they're calling an omega block, which is basically you have a system over here, which is a low, and a system over here, which is a low, and there's a high in the middle of them trying to divide the two. So hopefully it will spin out of here later this week. We'll see the trajectory, but on day 3, which is Wednesday, which I'm sure this is going to change, much of the lower 48 can anticipate some spotty showers. Louisiana, Mississippi, lower Alabama, you can anticipate some heavy rainfall. So keep your eyes and ears, be weather aware, because crazy things are aloft. All right, we'll look at the current radar for down under in Australia. It's relatively going to be a cool and mild day, a little gusty down in South Australia. In the Northern Territories, it's going to be nice and cool and balmy. Most of the rain shower will be along the Brisbane, Sydney region, but most of it will be offshore, so it's not going to be very effective. Up in the north, it's going to be pretty dry, as to the west as well. Look at the anticipated precipitation totals, and there's only a bit of precipitation slightly in Queensland on the southern coast, but it's not anticipated to be anything sincerely big. It's supposed to be pretty calm and breezy day in much of the country, especially to the south side of the country. Temperatures currently, we're looking at this in Fahrenheit, and Perth is 58. Up in the northwest, in Broome, it's 80. Up there in the far north at Darwin, it's 79. Over on the East Coast, it's in the 70s. Brisbane is at 59. Get down to Sydney, it's currently 63. Melbourne, 59. Please forgive the under the gun reference, mighty YouTube masters. Yes. Please forgive us for what we have sinned. We'll skip up here to the U.S., at least the lower 48, and see what the current temperatures are. Currently in Washington, D.C., it is 70 degrees. Atlanta, 67. It's a little cool in the south. 73 in Jackson, only 79 in New Orleans. Tampa, you in Jacksonville get the hot spot for today. Only over the next warmest spot will be on the other side of that Omega block in Odessa at 81. Along the West Coast, Seattle 57, Yakima 65. Down in Grants Pass, it is, what is it? Hold on, let me pull up here. Grants Pass, it is 59. Crescent City, you're looking at somewhere around the 60s. Over in the middle of the country, we'll look over here at Omaha, 75. Sioux Falls, 76. Kansas, 72. You can see a little warm front trying as it's getting that spinning energy from the low that's trapped the cold over in Chicago, St. Louis, where it's in the 50s. Louisville in the 50s. Columbus, 61. So you can see a little cold trapped by that little spinning cycle there. We'll get a better picture when we look at the wind. And Salt Lake City, 55. Anchorage, 46. 32 in Unalaska. All right. This is the rainfall and potential for tornadic activity. Today, it's pretty much in central to northwest Texas is where the highest chances are. Remember, going into overnight, that's going to continue as this map shows. And then tomorrow, the chance for the tornadic activity, I sense it's going to be kind of slight, but it'll be up in the Ohio Valley, extending over to the coast, the mid-Atlantic coast, going down the 95 corridor into the Carolinas. Slight chance, but it is still a chance there. and then as well as in Florida along the I-95 Route 1 corridor on the East Coast. And we'll continue with that into uh, the rest of the week. And we see that Texas, it's going to open back up for you in central Texas. Pretty much all of Texas can anticipate some tornadic activity as we're going into the evening, early hours tonight, as well as tomorrow morning, going into the morning hours in both Texas and the Atlantic coast. The rainfall isn't going to be that great for Texas, but when we get over into the central part of the country, you'll see more rainfall. Texas and Florida are going to get the most rainfall for the next 24 hours, but it looks like it's going to start drying out towards midweek. We just got to get through these storms. So just hang tight a couple days here. We'll go to the weather warning, see what we have. Before I look at it, do we have a weather warning for Maryland? Oh, I don't see one yet. I'm still looking. Oh, wait a minute. There it is. Missed it. Montgomery County, Maryland, test message. Please disregard. Don't understand it. Don't understand it. Why do we need to have it? All right. So West Virginia, severe thunderstorm warning in Kanawha, in Putnam, in Roane. Severe thunderstorm warning in Palm Beach, Texas, Bastrop, and Lee. Special weather statement. This is probably going in for tomorrow, for later tonight. Martin and Pitt County in North Carolina. And I'm not sure what a hydrologic outlook is. Let's pull this up. Sunday night, early morning, an ice jam. Oh, okay. So there's going to be an ice jam in Alaska. Good to know. Good to know. All right. Let's see. Puerto Rico. Oh, gosh. Puerto Rico, you just can't get a break. You're getting more rain. And, of course, along the Niagara River in New York City, there is a small craft advisory and some thunderstorm warnings in North Carolina. Ignore the test message from Andy. Let's see here. More severe weather watches for Florida, Broward, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach. Let's just go over and see what is popping on the radar right now. What do you say? Well, first, let's look at the wind map, but I need to refresh it because this was from like 1 o'clock. And it's still from like 1 o'clock. All right, well, there you go. Chris, it's relatively not that windy in Columbus right now. We see much of that energy is being pulled up out of the Gulf of America and being split. It's a little bit more to the east of the Mississippi now because of that block, but it's still pulling it up to the east and it's bringing it back out to the Atlantic. From the south and taking it out to the east over the Atlantic. And then over on the Pacific, it's pulling it in over the Rocky Mountains down and through the Rocky Mountain corridor, good Lord, and where it's gaining energy and extending it back up to the east. We'll take a bigger picture of that here in a second. All right, this is the current weather map showing radar as well as thunderstorms. We zoom in and we see there's some severe thunderstorms down in Killeen, down in Austin. So hang on to your trampolines down there, Brenda. And north of there in Dallas, Fort Worth, and to the west. That line, if you notice, see how the lines normally go from the west to the east. This was going from, this was going from the west to the west, extending back into Colorado. So that's what's causing this to be more severe. And that's what's going to later on today and tonight down here in central Texas change a lot of this to tornado warnings, and keep an eye on that. We jump up to the northeast and we see most of the rain right now is, well, it's kind of from Providence back inland to Middletown down towards, suppose it gets scattered along the Delmarva coastline, but it extends back over the Alleghenies into Harrisburg and down into Maryland. And you can see that the most severe storms are kind of spotty right now. Hagerstown, where you should be having a storm warning, get a test message. And Martinsburg, West Virginia, you have a pretty severe storm. Let's look at where the electrical activity is now. And they've already started prepping the coastline for the storms coming. So the South does not exist. You're right. It is so cool here. I have almost forgotten about us, Chris. All right, let's look and see where the severity of the thunderstorms are. Uh, you tickled me with that, Chris. Yeah, I totally did bypass Atlanta and Knoxville. And stop it. All right. Let's see here. The most intense storms look like we were talking about in Killeen, and they look to be pretty intense going up into Fort Worth and south of Fort Worth. We saw that line. It does extend back to the west towards Albuquerque, and it's not as big, but whenever you have this rotation going against what is the normal uh, jet stream, you get more aggravated and irritated storms. So be aware. Down in Florida, down in West Palm Beach, it looks like they have a pretty good cell going on down there with some electrical activity. Raleigh, you can see that they're getting some, well, it's pretty intense little storm, and back over to the east as well. And going up into West Virginia, looks like just to the southwest of Charleston, it's got a good little storm going on, and there's also one going on up here in, was that Youngstown, Ohio. And most of the rain that we saw off of the coast on this side was just rain. It wasn't producing any electrical activity. We'll zoom out and go down under and see if they have any lightning activity in Australia. And it appears that nothing significant, maybe a small cell with some, well, up on the northwest, but it's not even that well formed. So no lightning activity for Australia. All right, I'm going to refresh this because when I pulled it up, it was about 1 o'clock. Oh, and there we go. Some changes to it already. So we see California is experiencing power outages, and they have 20,884. Pennsylvania, where we saw some of those storms over the Allegheny Mountains, 21,134. So Pennsylvania and California are the highest, with Texas and then Tennessee and Florida following, and that is the 14:15, which is 2:15 Eastern Daylight Time update. And if we look into California, see most of that is kind of down in the Central Valley, down in the Napa Valley, where the power outages are, which is kind of unique. We'll look up here in Pennsylvania, and I anticipated, okay, in the Allegheny Mountains where those little, where that electrical activity was mostly at. So Tennessee and Florida, there's some mild activity, but nothing sincere. Tennessee later today is going to get some storms. All right, this is the drought map. This was released on the first day of the month, and we can see that this is probably going to change because of all the precipitation in Texas and along the southern border, especially down in Florida. Your drought will change. You will have a little bit more water, and as that storm continues, it should change this as well. But currently, it looks along the border to the north, and pretty much all of Florida, South Carolina, is where a drought is. And it's loosely also based on, like, if we zoom into the South, I always wondered about this. We get so much rain, and yet I always used to see Atlanta having a drought. I'm like, but it's always raining. They base this on population. That's how I figured. That's what I finally, when I did my research, because I was like, it's rained forever, but they base this on population, that we do not have enough water for the population. It's not the actual rainfall, which I thought was interesting, because I thought the U.S. weather, the weather forecasting people based it on the amount as far as inches of precipitation, but they don't. They base it on the number of people. So we can see how it's changed in the past 2 weeks. If we look at this from April 22nd on the right to April 29th, and then we saw there wasn't much change from it from the 29th to the 1st, but it is still going to be along the corridor here, the DMZ zone between Mexico and the USA, going to be a drought area. All right, we'll move on. Nothing really significant as far as space weather. There's a minor one that may cause a little bit of radio interference, but nothing significant. We'll look at the aurora. Make this larger and see what it looks like. Get larger, please. There we go. And it doesn't look like the lower 48 stand a chance of seeing the aurora for the next 24 hours. Yep, gets close, but nope, not down to the lower 48. If you're in Alaska, you get to see all of it. But yeah, yep, nothing for the lower 48 for the next 24 hours. It's usually kind of rare that we get it in the lower 48, but it does happen. All right, so we got two little interesting things here with air quality. Good Lord, stop hitting the wrong button. No, that wasn't a button. That was the button. This is talking about the air quality currently. And if we look over here on the East Coast, we see that pretty much from the Georgia coastline to about Charleston, inland to Columbia, Warner Robins, moderate air conditions down in South Florida, Cape Coral down to the Keys, in almost Miami, moderate air conditions. At the current moment, they're showing that Joplin, Mississippi has very unhealthy air. Stay inside, wear a filter or wear a mask if you go outside. And then next, it's kind of sporadic. We look at it over to El Paso, Tucson, and then we always see something over here on the California coastline. Sometimes it's spotty because of the winds. But I want to zoom in here for a minute on Oregon, and they're not really showing much in Oregon. You know, maybe a little bit to the west of Bend. I guess it would be to the southwest of Bend. But you don't really see much. But then I go over here, and there's an article on Zero Hedge that says children advised against going outside in Oregon due to air quality. Parts of Oregon are experiencing pollution's level deemed unhealthy for sensitive groups, according to the Air Now map for agencies including the EPA and NOAA. Areas affected include Baker City, Wood River Valley, northeast of Medford, according to Newsweek. The Newsweek report says cities health officials who say that children, senior, and people with respiratory conditions face an increased risk. And when we look at their map, it looks like pretty much in central part of the state, down in Medford, it is, well, it's pretty bad, but it wasn't on our map. So I wanted to bring that thing out because of the discrepancy. A South Coast AQMD, I'm assuming it means air quality doctor, spokesperson previously told Newsweek that the exposure to particulate pollution can cause premature death in people with heart or lung disease, cause heart attacks, aggravated asthma, decrease lung functions, and cause respiratory symptoms like coughing and difficulty breathing. In the air quality index, it tells you how it's scaled, but they're saying that the professor of pediatric respiratory and environmental medicine, these vulnerable groups are classically children because we've got an extra issue due to their lungs developing. There's also very clear links between inhaling particulates and early death from respiratory and cardiovascular disease, and that air pollution worsens conditions like asthma. Air quality levels remained under close watch and are subject to change with the weather, which we try and report daily. But I found it interesting because this article is dated this morning at 7:45 a.m. Eastern time, and we see on our map that we looked at, it didn't have this. So it's important if you have sensitivities to allergens or even just the air quality, go pay attention to that map. You can check it out. It's airquality.gov, I believe. I'll look in a second and see how it changes so rapidly. But I did not see this for Oregon at all. But I thought that was very significant since there was doctors saying for the young children to stay inside. So it's summertime. The kids want to be outside typically. So it's kind of a hard thing to do. All right, we'll go over to my favorite, the Weather Channel map. I still believe they're all liars because every time I go outside, I sneeze. Maybe I'm just allergic to air. I don't know. Pretty much from northeast, the northeast, pretty much coming up from the Carolinas, North Georgia, northern Alabama, all the way across the country is where the allergy line currently is. And up until about mid-Tennessee, it's green. From there, we turn into code orange, code red. And if we do zoom in over there in Oregon, there are more days. There is more of an area of code red than we see. So some of that may be pollens. That is a tree pollen map. We don't see in the weed pollen map anything significantly. That'll change over the next couple of months as we get more into summer. And we'll look real quick here at the weather channels. Yes, I am. Map. And this is one of their breathing index maps. And we see that there is portions of Oregon that is a code yellow, while much of the country is code green. But down here in Texas and New Mexico, you are a code yellow to red. It's basically all orange. So keep it updated if you are sensitive to this. That really kind of got to me when I saw they said the kids needed to be pulled inside. All right, aches and pains map. Well, here in Tennessee, I'm clear and free of the aches and pains. Looks like the worst is up around the Four Corners region to the northwest through the Rockies, is if you believe the aches and pains map. Not a fan personally, but whatever. All right, we'll jump on to the next thing. This is talking about fires, wildfires, and the smoke. Currently, go away. Currently, we'll zoom out a little bit. Most of the smoke is drifting from the fires in the central Midwest up to the north, up towards Manitoba. And most of the other smoke is staying pretty much isolated to its area of origin. So that means that pretty much down here in the lower section of Louisiana, all the way up to maybe Oklahoma, it's going to be a little smoky. Coming into Texas from the wildfires out in Mexico, there will be a little bit of smoke. And let's zoom in here and see if there's anything on Oregon. It's really not showing anything smoke-wise. So it's interesting. What makes their air quality so bad that a doctor runs a national alert, but it's not seen anywhere else? It makes you wonder. So we look at wildfires across the U.S., and we see that currently there's quite a few of them. Most of these to the west of the Mississippi, on the left side, in other words, are controlled burns. The ones to the right are wildfires. And we see that still up in the mountains of East Tennessee, North Carolina, they've had a problem. And most of it, like B-Rock is 97%. This one we just looked at, and it is, 100% on Big Ridge. Go back over onto the other side, the east side, Sam Davis Road, it's 100% contained. And then we just looked at B Ridge. And some of these fires are still detected, but not picked up on this map as well. But some of these fires are contained recently, but some of them are almost contained. So be mindful if you're out with open flames. If you're camping, make sure your fires are all extinguished. I think up in New Jersey, they finally got most of the fire up there controlled. Why will it not let me? There we go. Let's see. Oh, it's just got a number. And it's not saying it. Okay, so that's probably a controlled burn if it's like that. But it looked like most of these wildfires up here were controlled. So if these are controlled burns, it's not going to show you exactly a number over on the coast there of, what is that, Delaware. So back inland a little bit. Yeah, most of these are, it looks to be like controlled burns too. So that's good news. But yeah, I was concerned with some fires that I saw break out in parts of the Northeast, where there were, some were significantly large. So, but it looks like a lot of these are controlled burns. And I saw even down into, come on, zoom out, Florida, they had a problem with some wildfires down into the Miami, going down into the Keys. If I saw on social media that they had some problems with it. But look down here at the reported wildfire updates. Most of them, okay, so Jones Road, according to this, is still only 75% contained. Jones Road is the one in Ocean County, New Jersey, that was so bad. Pickens, South Carolina, it's contained. Miami-Dade, Johnson, 65. Look at this one. Thompson Hollow Road in Adams County, Pennsylvania, 53% contained. And we can go down. But yeah, this is that time of year. Don't be outside with an open flame. Don't be outside burning anything. Uh, Sammy Davis should have his own road. Excellent selection. All right, let's see. Let's look at, this is the air quality map. We like to use this to show what the air quality is. Well, it's pretty much worldwide, showing you the AI generated pollutants with the current wind path. Let's zoom in over up here to where Oregon would be and take a look and see really that area. I guess it's from a lot of the allergens and from the smoke from the wildfires. I can't see that it would be any other reason for that area to have such a poor quality. And currently, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, if you look at the overall map down here in Amarillo, Vegas, Fresno even looks worse. And you get up into the Northeast, you know, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, down to Cincinnati, up to almost all the way back up to Chicago, like a little horseshoe there, and extending down the 95 corridor, pretty much all the way down from Philly. Well, really, I will say the worst part from Philly down to Miami. You know, it looks worse than it does over in Oregon. So that perplexes me as to why they're so concerned with Oregon, and why they had an alert put out about it. But if we look at the pollutions here, we see most of them are north of the equator. And we look down in Australia and we see, you said you're going to have kind of a gusty day. Those wildfires down in Queensland are going to cause a little bit of pollution, and up through the central part of the country, the smoke's going to travel from the north to the south, and then up off of the Broome, Karatha section of the northwest will have a little bit of pollution, but it's mainly pushing out to sea. Yeah, exactly. Oregon is getting Columbus type attention, and I don't understand why, because when I don't recall us pulling up a single day going, oh, look at how bad Oregon was. I just don't. So that one kind of perplexes me. I don't know. I mean, call me weird. I'm weird. We'll put this out in AI form in the Planet, and you can see pretty much as we talked about, this is going to just have wind speeds mixed with the pollutants. Pretty much everything is north of the equator, and Oregon still looks pretty good to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it, but yeah, it just perplexed me. They called that one out. All right, well, look at our all-time favorite map here. If you're a regular to the show, you'll know that this is our favorite map. Get a plasma TV and just look at this big, beautiful, perfect, round blue globe, and it shows in all its AI glory how the wind is blowing, and it gives you a pretty good idea of the speeds of the winds. It's peaceful. You can sit there and do your zen to it. You can spin around and look down under in Australia. At the current winds there, and it's going to be a little gusty, but a pretty calm day. Maybe down on the southern coast a little gusty, but pretty calm day as far as that goes. And we can actually zoom into Antarctica down here and see what those Arctic winds are doing. On some maps, it is currently blacked out. I failed to mention in the National Weather Service briefing, there is nothing in the Atlantic or Pacific that they are watching at this time. So there's nothing. Now that may change next week, talking about there's one in the Pacific that may go to the Atlantic, and one in the Atlantic may go to the Pacific. It just depends on this Omega block, as they call it. And is it just me, or is it just because I watch more weather than a lot of people? But the Omega block, that's like big headline news. Omega block, it's bad. The Omega block is going to get you. Got me. All right, new data released on May 2nd. We'll update this real quick. The measles cases have now surged to 935 in the United States, and most of the population is 20 or less that is affected by this. And 96% status is unknown if you're curious about their vaccination, which means they either didn't say, they either didn't know, or they didn't have it. 13% of those people have been hospitalized, and there have only been 3 confirmed deaths in the United States. So it is not reaching pandemic levels in the United States at this time. And we'll look real quick because they also updated this. This is the respiratory viruses and the summaries. And we see that pretty much it's decreasing and relatively low in the mid-Atlantic states up here. I'm sorry, the Northeast corridor states, even back up to Wisconsin. New Hampshire, it's moderate. It's the only state that really stands out. Down in the South, it's pretty low, as well as over in the Midwest. This is respiratory disease. We jump down to the COVID-19, where they look at our poo. Still amazes me. And we see that most of the South is relatively low. There's some in South Carolina where it's moderate, and it gets up into Jersey and Massachusetts where it is relatively low, but it's increasing in New Jersey, and it's relatively high in Minnesota, Missouri, and Arizona. I don't know why those particular ones, if it's travel or what, and it's moderate in Louisiana. We'll look at the flu, which hopefully flu season is about over, and we see that it's relatively low across most of the country. And where you see the black lines here, it means they either didn't report or it was below the threshold limit required to report. So most of the country is pretty low for the flu, which is good news. Hopefully it's out of here. Maybe these omega blocks will push all of it out. And respiratory viruses, once again, pretty low. I think Vermont is having a problem with it being spiking a little bit, and Minnesota and Louisiana and Nebraska. Otherwise, it's relatively low in the lower 48. And emergency visits are dropping, which is good news for our staff. And they talk about epidemic trends. And everywhere we can see with COVID-19 is declining or is still so low it's not reported at all. So we can see that's a good sign, with the exception of Utah. That's the only state where COVID currently is increasing. We go back and look at influenza, and we see, like we talked about, pretty much the same. It's declining. So hopefully the winds will blow that bad stuff out of here. All right, so that's that update. Let's go through the event list real quick because we're going to be running out of time. In Israel, we know they're always having problems. A Houthi missile hit, injuring 8 over the weekend. 5 tourists feared dead in attack in Indian Kashmir. Oh, that's an old story. What am I doing? Why did they get it even up there? Okay. They shouldn't have that up there. The Congo, 9 UN peacekeepers injured as rebels close in on eastern Congo's main city. That's also a old news story. Why are they popping up these old news stories? 3 killed, 5 hurt in a shooting in Glendale, Arizona restaurant. It was a Cinco de Mayo family birthday celebration. It was all family members, apparently, that shot each other. That was what I read. 7 injured in a downtown Tulsa shooting. 2 suspects were shot by police. There's 1 police officer that was shot 3 times. Once in the leg, once in the abdomen, and once in the chest, but his vest saved him. Yeah, even an older song. You're right, Chris. Kenya, several injured as Shabana and Gormariah fans clash at Gushi Stadium. You'll have to decode that one for me, Chris. Let's see. 8 officers injured, 3 people arrested after Irish Cup final in the UK. Thailand, a bomb injured 3 policemen while they were installing concealed CC closed circuit television cameras in Nawarthi. In the United States, 1 dead, 14 people shot at a Houston family. Another family. Why are these people? Why are we shooting each other? Croatian police detain 140 fans in a brawl between rival groups before a game. In 5-3. And in over the weekend, police arrest 95 suspected cultists, recover firearms in Edo, in Nigeria. 6 killed, 60 injured in a stampede at Goa Laz Diva Temple in India. We know about the Ukraine and the Palestine wars. That's it. That's all they're reporting. Okay. Usually it takes us much further into other things. Did I not bring up all events? I thought I did. Mexico reports yeah, okay. And it's only supposed to show me the most recent ones. We go back here and see Malaysia. 16 students suffer from food poisoning. That was over the weekend. Salmonella contaminated spurs recall of fresh tomatoes. That's in the south and the northeast. Check your tomatoes for recalls. Pakistan, water emergency. Yeah, for some reason it didn't update. Spain, a cable theft that caused rail chaos was active sabotage, according to the minister. And we saw that about I guess it's a soccer game, disruption to rail service between Cardiff and Newport after a fire. But apparently there was something about a game too. U.S. airline cuts 35 daily flights to Newark. We covered that. We talked about the Houthi missiles. We talked about that. And 3 killed, 5 hurt in Glendale. We talked about that. We talked about the Tulsa shooting. All right, so maybe I did cover all of it. It just seems like there was more. It seems like there was more. 2 mysterious explosions rock Iranian factories. Well, there's a shocker. 4 workers injured in a steam explosion in Malaysia. Russian Federation explosion in Moscow apartments leaves 2 dead. Greece blast kills woman in Greek city. It believes she was carrying the explosive. Well, I shouldn't play with things that go boom. Hanwell fire. Man dies after blaze breaks out in his home in West London. New Zealand, fire in Auckland's McDonald's been deemed suspicious. It was a clown. I saw him do it. In Ireland, fire causes significant damage to a tourist famine village in Kodangal. And let's see. Major fire engulfs industrial facility in Iran. And we talked about, no, we didn't talk about 3 dead, 3 injured, 1 critically at a fire to senior living. Yes, we did talk about that last weekend. And get to past that. Landslide, Nepal. Heavy rainfall blocks a road and landslide. In the United States, volcanic activity, Kilauea, has been active, as well as Ataka volcanic complex and Spur volcano. I believe they're up in the northwest. Actually, pretty much every volcano in the U.S. is active. Flash flooding in Jordan and Afghanistan. Talk about flooding across the countries. In South Korea, 2 workers dead after inhaling toxic gas in a factory. Indonesia, power returns after an outage. That's good. And let's see, India, 3 killed as a dilapidated hospital balcony collapses. Well, that's horrible news. I can't even pronounce this country. I'm sure it's in the Baltic. None harmed to collapse a bridge. All right, well, that's good. That's in Asia, rather. And 2 dead, 3 injured under bridge collapse in Asia. All right. Other events, Pakistan, food authorities undercover wide milk, tea, and leaf adulteration. I don't know what that means. And we're running short on time, so I won't be looking that one up. 1 dead after a small plane crash in California. UK, chaos as World War II Spitfire crashes into a village, narrowly managing to dodge power lines. And nothing there. 30 influence rescued after Lamborghini yacht sinks off Miami coast. A Lamborghini yacht. That cost somebody some money. And we talked about weather, extreme rainfall, hail, heat waves, lightning, snowfall, flood. I still don't understand the flood. And that looks to be about it. Okay, so I covered all that. We're about to run out of time. We'll pull this up real quick and refresh it to make sure we're not missing anything with the latest earthquakes, because I know that in the south there had been some. The most recent major one was in Taiwan, Chile, and Chiapas, Mexico. It looks like before that it gets into Algeria and in the Congo, but those were yesterday. The volcanic activity we were talking about. Um, Most of that in the U.S. is up here along the islands between Alaska and Russia, and of course down here in Hawaii with Kilauea. And there are no tsunami warnings, advisories, watches, or threats, which is good news. And by the way, they ended up canceling all of them after we went off the air about 20 or 30 minutes afterwards from the earthquake that was in the northern Pacific. It said that it was not going to reach mainland. So that was good news. And let's see. We didn't really have time to go over the disaster map, but you can see here on the map where we could outline a lot of it in the U.S. is weather related in the South and the Southwest. And when you get to other parts of the world, it's due to other things. Usually it's in the Middle East, in Pakistan, Ukraine area. It's all due to war or terrorism. And down the Australian island, we see most of that is flooding and high winds. There's some wildfires to the northwest section, and also in south of Lumina in the Northern Territory. 10 hours ago, reported that. Don't have a lot of time to go over this today. This is the USA map where things occur bad in the country. Let's zoom in real quick here. I saw a brown one for Washington, D.C., or a couple brown ones. Let's see. U.S. Department of Homeland Security announces program to help illegals leave voluntarily. Well, okay, that's good, but we're probably paying for it. Trump says Gaza residents are starving because of Hamas. We will help them to receive food. We should offer humanitarian. Reporter, what's your expectation for meeting with Canadian Prime Minister tomorrow? Trump, I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. All right, so that comes out of Washington, D.C. For anyone interested, you can go to usalivemap.com and pull this up, and it'll tell you a lot of the most recent headlines and things that are currently going on. So that's a good site. Really, the New England Fire page has really got nothing. Okay, well, there's not showing any fires up there. And wow, look at the look at the weather balloons up. Wow, look at that. There's a lot of them. You can find this over at SOND, SOND hub.org, and you can see exactly what these weather balloons are doing. And if you're crazy enough, you can go out and chase them and try and catch one. Because rumor has it, if you catch them after they land, they're yours. So there you go. Look here at all of the aircraft over the United States. We'll trim it out to just military. And it looks like down here they're still training with the helicopters in Mobile and Dothan. And of course, it's always busy along the coast. And nothing really jumping out there. We'll zoom out and see if there's anything else anywhere else where the U.S. is active. And I don't see anything significant. So we really don't have time to cover it because it's time for David Beckmeyer to come up on Radio X, Yerg's Radio, and Right Talk Radio. And so he's coming up next. And I'm looking here at the TFR's temporary flight restrictions. And they still have the space one out, which is kind of weird for Alaska. So, but last time we saw that they were doing testing our new hypersonic missiles, as well as they were also testing them down off of Jacksonville. There was a special security and space weather where you could you couldn't fly in that space. So let's see, skip through all that. This map shows us all of the current marine vessels underway, and we see there's very few at our ports, but they're all jammed up at other ports. When you zoom out and go over to Asia, they're all jammed up over there. So that tells you a little bit about what's going on in the world. I'll leave you with this. We're getting bombed by cyber attacks and infections. Red are the attacks coming from Asia and the Baltic region, as well as Russia. And then the orangish yellow are infections, white or spam. You can see it's always active. All right, everybody, I have had a great show. It's been a long one. I hope everybody had a good time, enjoyed themselves. Please remember that you can tune in to David Beckmeyer next on Radio X. Let me, in fact, go ahead and give them their radio back so he can kick off his show and let him have his. All right, so everybody for Radio X, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, over to normal programming with David Beckmeyer. And we're still live. There we go. All right, we're off the air with them. Everybody that's following me on my YouTube channels, Twitch, all those others, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your patience through the day. It's been a great show. Hopefully, we will have a great show tonight. The ladies will. It's Monday Night Monsters. They're doing the 80s. So if you're interested in monsters and horror at 8 p.m. tonight on this channel, you can tune in and check out Monday Night Horrors. And Wednesday night, our Paranormal Guys show is going to be about something, well, a little bit freaky. We have a psychotherapist that is going to talk about consensual sex with ghosts. I don't know, but we're going to hear her story and find out. So everybody have a great day. I will catch you soon. And if you want to send me a message, shoot me an email at sportcat@protonmail.com or speakpipe.com/sportcat and leave me a voicemail. Everybody have a great day. I will see you